So, recently I had a friend who started therapy, and one thing that he and I have talked about several times now is that therapists don't give advice. And this is kind of a common misconception for many people when it comes to therapy and therapists and counselors. A lot of people think about going to a therapist or a counselor when they need advice or when they need direction. And while, of course, a therapist or a counselor is qualified to give advice or to provide guidance in that way, and it should be noted that every therapist and counselor has their own kind of theory and mindset about how people change and what people need to change. In general, therapists and counselors don't give advice, and the reason for that is because as therapists and counselors, our primary job is to empower our clients and the people that we work with to navigate their life in a way that is more successful, more in line with who they would like to become, etc. And we want to do that in a way that empowers them to do that for themselves and more or less kind of independent of others. And the reason that we try to avoid giving advice is because if we continually get advice, we end up becoming kind of like a vending machine for wisdom and advice and direction. And what that ends up happening, or what ends up kind of happening as a result of that, is that rather than becoming a kind of conduit for empowerment in our client's life, we become a crutch that they rely on. And that is not what we want, especially because most clients are paying us for their services, and it would be not in the client's best interest to continue to have to pay to come and get the wisdom and guidance that they need. And so what many counselors and therapists do instead is we try to provide clients with the skills and the mindsets and kind of frameworks that allow them to discover their own best way forward. And we try to give them the skills needed to process failure when things don't work out the way that they would like to, or to recover from past failures that have led to uncomfortable kind of emotional states and things of that nature. And so again, it's not that we can't give advice. I certainly have even showed up to my own therapist and been like, I really just need you to tell me what to do. But again, my therapist is a great therapist, and even then, she still does not just tell me what to do. She lovingly and kindly asks me what I think I could do, what are some options, and helps me to navigate those options, and helps me to kind of rule out maybe what doesn't seem like it'll work for me, or encourages me to consider other perspectives. So, all of that to say, that is kind of the stance on advice giving when it comes to therapy. And just a helpful reminder, if you're going to your therapist and asking for advice, you're not really wanting therapy. You're probably just wanting somebody to take the decision-making job off of you. And of course, there are times when it would feel really great to not have to make our own decisions. For those of us that are adults, we are the decision makers for our own lives, and we have to accept that responsibility even when it's really hard. So with that, I will leave it there. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voice Memos from a Therapist. I'm Graham McBride, a licensed professional counselor associate, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss our next memo when it comes out, always on Monday mornings. Just a reminder, the content in these podcasts is just my own opinions. They should not be considered therapeutic counsel or advice. And as always, I reserve the right to continue to learn and grow, as I hope that we all are. If you have further questions, feel free to find me on social media at gmc.counseling. This podcast is also available on YouTube if you're more of a video person, along with some longer form content. And finally, if you would like to learn more about what was discussed today, you can find more details in the show notes. As always, I hope you have an amazing day.